Hello, and welcome back to A Mental Break. I'm your host, Taylor Simpson, and today I have a guest on the show. I know you guys have been waiting for another guest on the show. I missed a couple of weeks. I had Lena on, and then, last week's episode was just me, but now we have another guest, and I'm very, very pumped and stoked to have a very special person on the show today because I've completed the set now of the Friedman brothers. I've got Michael on the show. Michael, how's it going, buddy?
Good, man. I'm living my best life. How about you?
Good, man. Thank you for asking. So Michael and I have been friends, I want to say, for what, 4 years now?
I think so.
Give or take.
Yeah.
Has it been that long yet?
I think IMP was 2017, so around there.
Around that time, right?
Yeah.
So for those of you that don't know, Mike's been in a few bands over the years.
Yes.
I've been in Common Chase. We've played shows together in Toronto.
True.
I've screamed for his band 16 Loco a couple of times at Sneaky D's.
Also true.
We're both big mental health advocates. Michael is a fantastic drummer.
Thank you.
And one of the earliest memories I have of you is at H Bar downtown when they had the open mic nights down there. You came and drummed for Jong's set, I think. And I think the whole set, right? Like the whole open mic, you were just there drumming.
I think I drummed for everyone, and then they're like, "You got to stop drumming. It's too late." I remember that.
Yeah, because I think you drummed for me too, didn't you?
Yeah, I drummed for you, and I drummed for some Raf stuff. I think Raf Kalejas, and then I also, I think, played for Jong.
Right. Yes. Yeah. So that's a little history about Mike and I and how we're friends, and continue to be friends throughout the years. And here we are now, and he's graciously agreed to come on the show and discuss his life with us today. So big shout out to Mike. Thanks for being here, man. Thanks for being my friend and sharing all these nice stories we've had so far.
Yes, thanks for having me, and I am honored to be your friend.
Oh, thank you, man.
No problem.
Yeah, so I'd like to begin the pod with just asking the guests that come on if they're feeling comfortable, if they're, feeling okay to discuss certain things of their life in a mental health regard, because obviously, it's a sensitive subject and I never want to force anybody coming on here to discuss anything they're not comfortable with. So yeah, I just want to make sure that I have consent from you to speak about some dark shit today, man.
Sure, I do consent. I mean, I've watched BoJack Horseman and the new Bo Burnham special, so I'm ready to discuss the dark shit.
You're like mentally there.
I'm ready.
Bro, I remember when I first watched Inside. Oh my God. I had such an existential crisis moment at the end of that. I was like, wow.
So well
God
done.
damn.
God damn is right. I've seen it 6 times now.
I've seen it 3 times.
Yeah.
I keep coming back for the songs because they're amazing.
Do you have the album on Spotify? Do you listen to it in the car?
I don't, and I should. I don't know why I don't have it on the old phone, but I should probably pick it up.
Yeah, I love the singing in the car. Like, is comedy over? And then like someone's looking at me, like, and they're like, "What are you doing?"
I'm singing Bo Burnham. Shut the fuck up.
Exactly. Like, I'm busy here.
Yeah, leave me alone.
Bro. Yeah.
Oh man. Okay, so Mike, for those out there listening to the podcast or watching, hello.
Hello.
Tell them a little bit about yourself, Mike, so they get to know the guest on today's show a bit better.
For sure. So, my name is Michael, as you know, and I am a drummer.
He's the younger brother of Jonathan, who's on the. Sorry, I don't want to cut you off, but
oh, no worries.
I mixed up. I thought Jonathan was your younger brother.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I said younger brother, and he was like, "Scratch that. It's older brother." I'm like, "Oh fuck, sorry, John."
You know, the best part about all that is that I'm actually the middle kid, and we both have a younger brother as well.
You do. That's right. So I don't have the full set yet.
No, you don't have you got to get Brian.
I got to get Brian.
He works for Redken for L'Oreal.
Have I ever met Brian?
No, I don't think he's been to a metal show before, but not one you were at.
No, I don't think I've met him, have I?
He lives in Montreal, so he comes in a few times a year.
Oh, that's probably why I haven't met him yet.
Yeah, but I'm actually the middle and I'm younger than Jonathan, but everyone always thinks I'm older, and I think it's because I'm more mature. I don't know though.
Well, we'll let you guys decide that. I'm staying out of it.
But
That's a
yeah, so
conversation for you guys to have. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I, we have it all the time. But yeah, I'm a drummer and a bassist and a mixing and mastering engineer, which for those that don't know, essentially means that someone will record their song at home with a microphone, and then I take that recording and I make it ready for release. So I'll make it sound real nice, like all the songs on the radio do.
Yeah. He goes
Yeah,
beep, 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 boop, boop on the computer and it goes nice.
pretty much. And then my fingers cramp up and I take breaks.
We were just talking before we started rolling, for you listeners and viewers, about like him getting a lap dog to like help him with his mixing and mastering. So he has a little companion there to like keep him going.
Yeah, and I want a big one too, like an 80-pound lapdog, just to chill with.
Just like a fucking sandbag on your lap, basically.
Yeah, like a weighted blanket on my
Yeah.
lap.
A weighted blanket that breathes.
Yeah, the breeze has a heartbeat, and I care for.
Oh, so sweet.
Yeah,
But yeah, so that's a little something something about Michael.
all
Yeah, I
true.
forgot to add the whole like mixing and mastering thing. Yeah, because you've been like really into that over the last, I
Yeah,
want to say like what, 2 years?
yeah, just about 2 years. 2 years in November, so we're getting
Right.
really close. And I've met so many great people, and it's all been word of mouth. So I'm really like, I guess
Yeah, you
blessed to like have that happen for me. Yeah,
absolutely, man. You've really built up your brand over the last 2 years. I've seen you do a lot more work in the last 2 years than I've ever seen. Obviously, I mean, because you started it, but like relative to you starting, like it's come a long way, man.
yeah, fried mix or freed mix. I never tell people what the real one is,
I just
but
say
it's
fried mix.
so people mix it up because my last name is Friedman,
Friedman, yeah.
but I fry the mix, so I'm fried mix.
Fried mix.
So it could go either way.
I don't know. I think fried mix sounds pretty cool. That's what I've been saying at least.
People like that one. They're like, bro, this is fried. I'm like, I know. And then, so people like that one a lot.
Potato potato. I don't know.
Yeah, fried potato, fried potato.
Exactly. It all tastes delicious at the end of the day,
Exactly. It's all good with
right?
sour cream.
That should
Yeah.
be your slogan.
It all tastes good with sour cream.
No, it like yeah, you can make whatever you want, man. It's fine.
I like that fried potato, fried potato. I actually like that a
There
lot.
you go. That could be a good one.
That's a good
Yeah,
slogan.
it all tastes delicious at the end of the day, so it doesn't matter.
That's going on my website, but no one will know because it's going to be spelled the same.
Exactly. They won't be able to tell the difference.
No, I'd just be like, you get to decide.
Nice, man. And we touched upon school there for a second. For those listening and watching, Michael and I both went to Seneca for music.
That is true.
And you did IMP, right?
I did IMP 35, and now I think they're on like 42 or something, 43 maybe.
Crazy, man. And for those of you listening and watching that don't know what IMP is, it stands for Independent Music Production. Right. And so there's two music programs at Seneca. There's the IMP and then the IPS, which is what I did. And I never understood why it was IPS and not ISP. It always confused me that it was labeled that way.
What does that stand for again?
Independent Songwriting and Performance.
Oh,
But they put the P before the S though. So it's like the way the abbreviation is would be like independent performance and songwriting.
oh, because I think isn't ISP like a computer term? I don't know if they care about that.
Oh, maybe. And they couldn't use that or something.
Like BMO is called BMO, even though it's Bank of Montreal, so that it wouldn't spell bomb.
Right. Also, they're French though.
Bank Montreal of.
So everything's backwards in French. Like translated to English, everything's backwards. So that makes sense.
Maybe, but then it could be like mob. Montreal of Bank.
Montreal of Bank. That's great. I love that. Oh man. So we can go on a whole tangent about this, man. But like, and plus I haven't talked to Mike in a while too. So it's just good to be able to chat with you because it's been, a roller coaster of a fucking year and a half that we've all had to live through.
Yeah, the Panasonic.
Yeah, the Panasonic flat screen disease.
Yeah, the whatever those water fountains are called they had at school. They have like funny names.
Oh yeah.
A really long name.
Yeah, I don't remember it either, but yeah, wow. Good throwback.
I love that shit.
But yeah, man. So that's Michael. He's on the show, and we're gonna discuss his mental health and everything like that, and get into it and have his perspective on his life story of all of that stuff.
Yes, I'm going to share some things that you will then hear. And also, I found the name of the water fountain is an LKEZ Easy H2O, but that's not relevant to mental health.
It is to mine because I need to know that. So thank you for putting my mind at ease for that.
Hey, they keep you hydrated, so I mean that's good. That's
Hey,
good for your health. Yeah,
that's relative. That's relative right there.
water.
All right, Mike. So let's dive in. So my first question for you here is what mental health struggles or illnesses do you deal with, if any?
Okay. Yeah, well, it's interesting because I'm one of the not one of the few, but like I feel like I've taken really great strides with my mental health over the past, I don't know, since growing up, honestly. Because yeah, when I was 16, I was actually diagnosed with social anxiety disorder,
Okay.
and so and I was like one or two off of major depressive, I think, but like social anxiety was like my thing, like growing up, even like up to like I don't know, maybe even grade eight. So grade 1 to 5, I was like really annoyingly talkative, and I would like talk to everyone, get to know people. And then the flip side of that is like I'd also tattletale on people. Like I was like the lawful neutral type kid. And then
Okay.
and then grade six, then people kept getting annoyed with me. So like grade 6 to 8, I was much more quiet because like people were like, yo, like shut the fuck up, essentially. Um,
Mm,
and then grade 9 to 12, I realized that no, wait, actually, like now people are down to talk to others, and so I feel like grade 9 to 12 was like my period of time where I was able to sort of boost my HP back up and like get a bit more mentally healthy, and then yeah, then since then it's been like slightly up and down, but it's been much more manageable than before. So I'd say second year and above, I felt like I really took a handle on like what I was facing.
okay, that's cool. Nice, man. So it's just mainly the social anxiety then that you battle with?
Yeah, and that can lead to other things like feelings of depression and stuff like that. Just
Sure.
because, yeah, if you're socially anxious and then you feel like people don't like you, or maybe there are a couple people who don't like you, then like that can lead to like, oh damn, like maybe I'm lonely then, like maybe I'm left out because of what I'm
Mm,
experiencing.
right. And that could lead to like sadness, and then if it gets really bad, it could be a depressive like bout, right?
Exactly, like that could, like I feel like social or general anxiety are so comorbid with depression and depressive episodes
Oh, for
because
sure.
one puts you in the past and one puts you in the future, they say. So
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I feel like yeah, like you said, like the two of them are pretty tandem. I was talking with Clemmy because I had her
mhm.
on the show, and I used a metaphor like because I have OCD, anxiety, and depression. Those are my
Mm.
like big three that I battle with consistently. And
Hmm.
I imagine them as like, do you know like the evil twins from The Shining?
I'm so scared of horror movies. I've never seen The Shining. But is it the two little girls that
It's
like
the
hold
two little girls
hands?
holding hand in the hallway.
Yeah,
Okay, so
yeah,
you at least have the idea, right?
yeah. I do.
So I like to imagine them like my depression, OCD, and anxiety is like triplets,
Oh,
like
that's
scary
interesting.
triplets, just like in my mind going like, "Hey Taylor, how's it going?" Like you know what I mean? Like just holding hands and doing like that, like Mary Posey thing or like in circles around my brain.
Oh, Ring Around the Rosie.
Bring her
Yeah.
on the Rosie, yeah, yeah. That's how I like to
Is there one
imagine it.
that is there one that's like out of the three that sticks out more to you, like, or are they sort of like all level? Like, is there one that sort of feels worse on average?
Uh, Good question. I'd have to say probably depression sticks out a bit more for me.
Hmm.
The anxiety really only comes in like later, and it's kind of fleeting. It's more like I know how to manage that one a lot better
Hmm.
and have been able to manage it better over the last couple of years. Same with the OCD. Like the OCD was my OCD was really bad like when I was a kid.
Hmm.
Um, like I would do like the whole like turning the light stuff on and off like 50 times and like closing the door and locking it like 30 times. Like it was excessive.
Hmm.
And now I've got it down to just basically like I just have to know where my things are basically. Like I have to know where my phone is, my keys, my wallet, like it's very like a possessive obsession.
Mm.
Like I just have to know where all my stuff is all the time, and it gets
And is
annoying.
that, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say like it gets annoying sometimes, but like I've had this for so long that you adapt to it and you learn and you come up with ways to manage a bit better so it doesn't like control you, like you control it, kind of
Hmm.
thing.
I like that. And is that like, and that comes with like to keep, because I've heard a lot, some people with OCD, it's like to sort of keep out or to manage intrusive thoughts, you fixate on like specific objects or things. Is that like the case with you? Like, do you feel that?
To a certain extent, yeah. I feel like it goes most days it goes like subconsciously. I'm not even aware that I'm doing it most of the
Mm.
time, which is great because I'd rather not be aware that I'm doing it than be aware that I'm doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've gotten to that level where it's like it's not controlling me anymore like it used to.
Hmm.
I can live with that. Like I still have tendencies and stuff that I want to get rid of still, but like they're minor in comparison to what it used to be before, right? So
That's good. At least like it hasn't. So you feel like the depression sort of like the one that sticks out the most.
yeah, out of the triplets, she's definitely the worst one.
Okay, so she's the tallest or whatever.
Yeah, she's like the Vicky, from Fairly Odd Parents.
Oh yeah, yeah, Vicky, yeah,
She's like
like
the Vicky of the group.
or like the Peppa Pig, who's like supposed to be like 7'4" or something.
I love that. That's great. Yeah, so your social anxiety is your Vicky then?
Yeah, I'd say so, just because that's one that's had the most like I felt like the most impact on my day to day, especially growing
Sure.
up, and then that sort of like correlating to my like treatment, like my chemotherapy and all that was like
Right.
really interesting. It was really interesting because yeah, essentially my social anxiety disappeared for the first half of my treatment for like the first time ever. So
Interesting.
unusually you'd think that that type of thing causes anxiety.
I was gonna say, yeah, I was like, especially going through something like that. I'm sure we'll get into it more later in the podcast. And
Yeah,
if you're okay with talking about it, I'd love to get into that because
yeah, sure.
that's a huge part of your life.
Definitely.
But yeah, I would think that having something like that happen to you at that age would like only make it worse because then you're like kind of I don't want to say an outcast. That's a horrible word to use, but like
You can use it, I don't care.
you're you know going through something that not a lot of people at that age go through,
Yeah,
and like it's very isolating, right?
it can be. Yeah, especially, I mean, I had a bit more support than the average person, which once again I'll get into later on.
Sure, sure.
But yeah, I feel like that was like almost like the bookmark of a chapter, and then with that lack of social anxiety, afterwards came double the social anxiety, and then I sort of leveled out. So it felt like the point where you're mixing two types of paints together, and it becomes like one type of paint. So I feel like
I see.
I'm now one shade instead of the two.
If you were a color, what color would you be?
I mean, I want to say spicy white.
Spicy white.
That's what I tell people
Whoa.
because like I'm Jewish white, but then my mom's from Venezuela. So
Oh, so spicy
yeah,
white. I get it now. Okay.
I say spicy white because I'm white passing. I benefit from everything that being white benefits from. But then
Right.
also like I love arepas and Mila and like Milanesa because my grandparents are Moroccan, like North African Moroccan.
Got
So
it.
like yeah, I tell people I'm spicy white. So I guess white
Spicy white.
with a bit of Frank's red.
I love that. So yeah, I'm imagining like and like correct me if I'm wrong here, Mike, but I'm imagining like a white with like almost like spices, like red flakes within the
Paprika.
white. Yeah, yeah, like a
Yeah.
paprika color.
I'm Chipotle mayo. That's what I'll tell people.
Chipotle mayo. That's great. That's a good one. All right, cool, man. Cool. So that's anybody listening and watching. If you wanted to know, there you go. That's Mike's color.
I'm a fried mix
Nice
of Chipotle and mayo. Yeah.
Chipotle mayo. Okay, man. Have you ever been? You said you got diagnosed, right? So we've covered that. But have you been diagnosed with anything else by a professional or a doctor, or anything like that? Or is there anything that you haven't been diagnosed with that you want to be diagnosed with, or are looking for a diagnosis?
Oh, well, I was gonna say, well, I've been diagnosed with cancer, but I felt like that's like a bit of a joke there because I just mentioned my chemo. So,
Right.
um, but I'd say like a diagnosis, I'm not looking to get diagnosed with anything else. Like I feel like being diagnosed with social anxiety gave me the closure on on that chapter of my life that I needed.
Okay.
And I'm not even sure if someone can outgrow a diagnosis, but I feel like I've really been able to manage that really well to the point where it's like, an average amount of anxiety compared, like just when things that are supposed to be anxiety provoking happen,
Right.
compared to before where it was like the world is on fire.
Sure, sure. So I relate to that in the sense of my OCD, like how it used to control me when I was younger, and now I have control of it. Well, for the most
Yeah.
part. Like
Yeah,
you said,
exactly. For the most part.
you never really outgrow it, obviously. Like it once you get the diagnoses, it's it's something you kind of have to live with the rest of your life, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to take over the rest of your life. Like you can
Yeah.
manage it better, right? So it's like it sounds like it's the same thing for you. Like you had it when you were younger and it was affecting you, but
Hmm.
now it seems like over the last couple of years you've gotten a better hold on it and it doesn't
Hmm.
control you anymore, which is great.
Yeah, sorry, someone's at the door. Hello. Oh, yeah, come on in. You're gonna meet my girlfriend Monique.
Hi.
Taylor says hi.
Hi. You're on the podcast.
You're on the podcast now. You're famous.
Oh, yay!
Say hi to your parents if you want.
Oh yeah, you can wave hi. You be like, "Hi, mom." It's funny. Yeah, she's about to go work at the keg. Actually,
Oh no way! Which keg?
the one literally a 10-second walk from our place, at Young and Shepherd.
Oh, the Young and Shepherd one. Okay, cool. I have two
Yes.
friends that work there.
Oh, you have two friends that work at that keg.
Yeah, I can't remember their names though.
Oh, so were they really your friends then?
I worked. I worked with them at the other keg because I also worked at a keg.
Oh yeah, he also worked at the keg.
At that one?
No, at a different one. So which do you see
So
if you can
I
remember
worked.
your names? Mm-hmm.
I worked at the one Mississauga,
Miss Saga.
Oh.
like the one on Argentia and Winston Churchill.
Okay, so maybe some of those people moved over to the North York
And
one.
yes, so the people that I worked with there, because I worked there for 5 years when I was
Oh,
younger.
damn.
I was like 18, no 17. I was 17 when I worked there.
Okay.
17 till 22.
That's
And
17 to 22.
then
Okay.
yeah, and then some of the people that I worked there transferred to the Young and Shepherd one, and I
Mm,
think they're still there.
let me know if you remember their names, because like that'd be interesting to
Yeah,
like talk about.
I'll definitely try to remember their names. I think both of them are girls, and I
Both
think
girls, okay.
one is blonde and one has black hair.
One's blonde, one has black hair. They're both girls. We're off to a start.
That's very, very.
I know it's very vague.
She said very, very not helpful.
We'll get back to that. We'll get back to that. Maybe I'll leave this part of the podcast. Maybe I'll take it out. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, if you think about it, let us know. If not, back to mental health.
Yeah.
Focus.
Where was I at? Oh yeah, we were talking about like diagnosis and stuff. So yeah, you said you were 16, Mike, when you got diagnosed with the social anxiety?
Yeah, I was diagnosed with social anxiety. Or 17 maybe. I think it was after my treatment, actually.
Okay. So did you experience anything before that?
Yeah, I knew it. Like since I was maybe 9 or 10, I was aware that I'm like really anxious, and maybe like I never knew if other people were as anxious as me. I just thought it was like, oh, everyone just feels this way. So
right, because you don't know any better, obviously.
yeah, but I remember when I was 10, I was studying for tests, and I remember I just got this headache out of nowhere, and the headache lasted like 8 months. And now looking
Whoa.
back, I think it was just social anxiety and being stressed.
Yeah, probably. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, so my next question then, moving forward after the diagnosis and stuff. And sorry, before we move on, one last thing.
Mhm.
Did you experience any
Bye.
other sort of bye? Did you experience any sort of other feelings of anything else that you might have been dealing with other than anxiety? Like, was there ever like any depression bouts or any other sort of mental health illness that may have popped up in your life that you thought you might have had or wanted
Well,
to learn more about?
Well, I thought I might have depression, but I feel like it was just a depressing time in my life as a result of my social anxiety compared to you have this and it's like a disorder.
Right. Okay.
I feel like that came into play, but I feel like, yeah, I can't think of anything else. Like I was just sort of like, I was like a very excited kid, and then I went to being a teenager, so I just got like super like straight faced and shit. And then I feel like social anxiety is really the only thing mental health wise that governed my life, which couples with like self-esteem as well.
Sure. Okay. So it's like the big prominent thing was the social anxiety then.
Yeah, that was like the banner on the that was like the billboard for sure.
Got it. Okay. So then moving forward from that, um, what has your experience been like, or like, your perspective of dealing with your mental health throughout the years? So
Hmm.
like the way I like to imagine this, Mike, and how I tell my guests to like kind of explain to the listeners and the viewers
Mhm.
is like paint me a timeline of when you first started feeling this way, like as far back as you can remember, obviously.
Mhm.
Like when you started seeing the signs of, oh man, like I'm feeling anxious all the time,
Mm.
like this isn't normal. And then like walk me through that experience, like if there's any like highlight moments that like add up to like the diagnosis, and then like, yeah, like just walk us through that whole phase.
Okay, so like a full timeline. Um, I'd say yeah, it started when I was 10. I think before that I may have known because I had a lot of nightmares growing up, like really bad ones. Like I'm Jewish and like I'd have nightmares that I was in the Holocaust, like really like
Oh
messed
my
up stuff
god.
for like a 10 to 12-year-old type
Jeez.
stuff. Yeah, like really bad stuff. And so my sleeps are always like pretty bad growing up. And I'd say like ages 9 or 10, I would like sense anxiety. I started like sensing anxiety and knowing what to call it. I may have experienced it before, but yeah, I'd say ages like 10 to 12, I started like really feeling it and knowing that like it's overwhelming. Um, and that might have tied to, I don't think it tied to like my parents' divorce or anything, but I feel like I noticed it, how it manifested differently based on my parent. So like
Mm,
maybe with my mom, it was like my anxiety was more like from like a bit more chaos, I want to say, or like more like franticness.
okay.
Whereas with my dad, it was like more tame. It was more like, so I grew up with two brothers, my older and my little brother.
Yeah,
And
Jonathan and Brian.
yeah, and Jonathan and Brian were both more outspoken as kids. So they'd be like more like, I want this for dinner. No, I want this for dinner. And I would just be like in the corner, just like watching and like kind of be like, I'll get anything. Like I'm down.
Oh,
Like I don't care. Like why are you arguing? So
just food, please, food.
yeah, feed me. So I was more diplomatic. So I guess more of my anxiety with my siblings or like on my dad's side was like navigating that and like figuring out, okay, like I'm the middleman. I'm the one that has to sort of be the peaceful one,
Like the mediator.
the mediator. But I feel like my mom's was more just like, I don't know. My mom was more adventurous than my dad, I'd say.
Okay.
They'll be more like, okay, like there's so much going on. There's so much going. People like my dad, there was like just us, and then like with my mom, it was like there are people coming over. I had my stepdad, um, so like having extra people there, it was like very more rambunctious, I'd say.
A bit more spontaneous.
Spontaneous, rambunctious, yeah,
Yeah.
unpredictable.
Okay.
And then yeah, and then from there, a lot of my anxieties came from being in school. Like I never could make like good friends, I'd say, until like grade 9. So like I'd say maybe I had like one or two friends up till grade 9.
Right.
And not because I was like unfriendly, but because I was just like quiet, or I was like in my younger days being annoying, and in my middle school days being really quiet, and people be like, "Okay, like who's that?" Um,
Right. I was gonna ask you, like, what was that feeling like? Like, do you remember what it
Mhm.
was like being back then and like having those feelings of like, were you anxious like all the time in
I'd
those
say
moments?
so. I was anxious like 24/7, like not even exaggerating. Like I had
Yeah.
this like weight on my chest like all the time, and it
Mm,
felt like, um, maybe it felt like there was like that feeling of a weighted blanket. It felt like that, but localized to your chest, and it just felt like someone was like pushing on your chest for like
mm.
10 years.
Is it
So
hard to
like,
breathe sometimes?
yeah, it was hard to breathe sometimes, but more just like really uncomfortable. It's like
Yeah.
you have like growing pains or dull pain somewhere. It's like that, but just like what feels like eternity.
Right. And that was like going throughout your day, it would just feel like that.
Yeah, anything I was doing, something if I was relaxing, or I guess not relaxing, but if I was trying to relax, or
Trying
like,
to relax, yeah. Trying to,
or if I was
yeah.
like, if I was studying, if I was trying to relax, if I was playing. The only thing, honestly, that took my anxiety away for a bit were either drumming, because it felt like I was getting that off my chest, figuratively, literally,
Sure.
or video games, which I don't know. I love playing video games and
Right. An escape from reality, basically, right?
escape from reality, and like you have your focus on something specifically that isn't that feeling.
Right, right. Um, yeah, so like continue from there, man. So like you had a hard time making friends in school because you were like constantly anxious.
Hmm.
And then you said you were like, okay, so were you actually annoying or was that your own perspective of how you were?
I mean, because I have to see it from my own perspective. I'm
That's
gonna
all you know,
say
right? So
that's all
yeah,
I know. That's all I know. But I did have like kids specifically tell me that I was annoying,
I see.
and also like looking back, I'm like, yeah, I was kind of like a shit disturber sometimes. Like I was kind of like so different than I am now. Maybe not so different because I do stick flips on stage, but I used to do like headstands in the middle of the recess yard in grade 3
Okay,
to like try and get attention. And then I used to
right.
like playing tag. I'd always be the one like trying to run the fastest and like tattletale if someone like got caught, but they were like faking. I'd be like, no, man, you're it. And, like game's over. Um,
Do you feel like that was like, sorry, I don't want to keep bombarding you with questions. I want to get you through your storyline, but
no,
I'm just curious. Like, and that's why we're on the
Mhm.
pod, right? To talk about it.
The pod.
I'm curious to just see like, do you think that was you like overcompensating for the fact? Maybe like because you were
Overcompensating for what?
like because you were so anxious all the time and you had like this weight on you and like you had people calling you annoying and shit and like you were
Mhm.
just trying to make friends, right? So like were you trying to like I'm just curious like maybe you were trying to overcompensate with these things to like get people to notice you because you felt that was the only thing you could do to get people to notice you.
That's very possible. I mean, I see that now when I was doing camp counsel when I was a camp counselor, like some of like the smartest kids would be the ones that would act out because they're bored. So I feel like it's possible that like I was just like not bored but lonely. So I'm like, okay, how do you
How do I
uh,
get
do you not be
like
lonely? Yeah,
yeah,
but
I was
it's
just
very
curious.
possible.
Yeah, but you
I
never
never
like
thought about it.
yeah, I was just gonna say, you ever put any thought about that side of things?
No, I'm just like I was annoying because I wanted attention. So that can correlate to overcompensating, but I just thought of it as like an attention grab.
Okay.
Yeah.
But then moving from that, what
And
happens?
moving from that, I was like, so then we're like at grade 9, I'd say. So I feel like I was really loud and annoying, or at least in my perspective, until grade 5. And then
Right.
grade 6 to 8, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna like shut up and like just do my thing. And I felt like that did have more people that like I would get along with in class because I was doing, I guess, a normal amount of like I was doing what was socially acceptable, like you're quiet unless there's something to talk about.
Right.
And then yeah, for that time period, I did well, but I still felt a bit like outcasty because I couldn't like be fully myself, be fully out there,
Right.
which is where I feel like any sort of depressive bout would have come in because I was like just lonely. Um,
Right.
that's why I feel like it's not an official diagnosis because it was like specifically out of loneliness,
Sure.
which had environmental factors that helped with that later on.
But I will remind you that like whatever you feel is how you feel, right? And that's valid to you. So if that
Yeah,
felt like depression to you, then it was depression, right?
that's true.
Like
I just feel.
if that's what that feels to you, then I would just say like, yeah, then that was your experience with what you felt as depression, right? Everybody feels depression in a different way. It's not like it's like black and white, right? It's a whole spectrum of colors on how you feel. And no one person can be like, well, this is depression. Well, no, there's that kind of depression. There's this kind of depression. Like
Mm.
depression comes in waves, man.
Mm.
Um, that's my perspective on it, at least. So
I
I would
feel that.
go for it. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I feel that. Just the only thing I don't want to do is like I because I don't have depression. I don't want to be like, and like I could have a depressive bout. I don't want to be like, I feel like I had depression at that time because I know people with depression and it's like you said, it looks different for everyone, but I just feel like because I can name the environmental factors that cause it and those environmental factors don't affect me anymore, I
Right.
don't want to say like I feel like social anxiety, like I still have and I just manage it really well, whereas depression was like it may have been a depressive episode, but I don't officially have it. So I just don't want to take away from anyone that has it and feels that lack of
Sure.
yeah, you know what I mean.
I understand what you're getting at. It's like you don't want to take away from others that are dealing with it all the time
Exactly,
versus
like
your episodes that you've had throughout the years.
exactly, like it's like the same way like I wouldn't necessarily want someone to be like when people say like, oh, I'm so OCD, and it's because they want a pencil instead of a pen, and you're like, well,
That's not
like
OCD, my dude. I
yeah,
hate to break it to you.
it's like, well, you could have that compulsion, or you could be slightly obsessive, but that's different than having a disorder.
Yeah, I love how OCD got turned into a verb all of a sudden.
I'm so OCD. I'm
It's like, what?
like you have intrusive thoughts, or like, nah, I just like cooking my steak 4 minutes on each side, and you're like, bro, like,
You're just particular. That's
yeah, like it's so different. So that's why I'm very careful.
Yeah.
But I
I
would say
don't
I
really
went
get
through.
bothered by
Yeah.
that anymore though, because like if I got bothered by that, I'd be bothered every single day.
A
And
nickel every time.
I just can't. I don't have the patience or the time to deal with that, or like invest that much anger into that. Like I don't give a fuck, man. Like whatever. I wish people would stop doing it, but like they're not going to. So
Yeah, people do that with depression too. Like, I'm so depressed, like I wasn't able to go out for dinner with my friends tonight, and then like, okay, like it's okay to feel like lonely and like feel like you're sort of a bit outside like of what your friends are doing.
yeah, absolutely.
But like,
But that's not depression.
yeah, it can be different than like feeling sad about something. Those are two different things. Or
It
feeling
is.
lonely in a
It's weird,
time.
Mike, because we're living at a time where like, where is that line now? You know what I mean? Like, because it's so I don't know if I've ever approached it from this side of things before on the podcast because we've
Mhm.
talked about it a lot over the last your episode 17. So
Nice.
I've talked no episode 17 or 6 or 18. Anyways, you're somewhere around there.
16.
Somewhere around there.
I don't know.
We've talked a lot about all of these things, right? But I never came from the approach of like it being in a place now where it's getting more acceptable to talk about these kind of things, and the world is starting to take depression more seriously, which is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, with all good things come bad things. And I
Yeah.
feel like where's that line in the sand? Like where is that line in the sand in terms of like people abusing depression now and confusing it for just sadness?
Yeah, and I feel.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I was gonna say I feel like that. I feel like people aren't like malicious or anything. I feel like it comes from like just how we use it colloquially, like how people think
Yeah.
about language. Like it's kind of, in my eyes, is like the same way that people might say "you're" or "you are" when they're typing, but the difference is that that doesn't have a real world effect as someone saying that one, oh my god, I'm gonna kill myself because like this didn't happen or that didn't happen, like sort of just out of nowhere, or like people saying I'm so OCD, or people saying like I'm so depressed, like I don't know, I don't want to negate anyone feeling depressed for a specific reason, but like it's
No,
just
of
like,
course.
but people just need to be careful with the language they use and how it has a real world effect on people that are suffering if they don't identify as someone that suffers with something.
No, I couldn't agree more, man. Yeah, like I don't want to invalidate anybody, like you said. Like if like I just said to you earlier, like if that's how you feel, that's how you feel.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
there is a certain like boundary almost to when you can use it and when you can't use it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I don't know. It's a gray area.
It just has an effect on people. So like if someone says, "Oh my god, I'm going to kill myself," and that's like not a feeling that they have, they're just saying it, then like that can cause other people around them to be super concerned and worried and take actions that they may not want to be taken because that's not actually how they feel.
Yeah,
So it
exactly.
can also work negatively against the person themselves. That
Yeah.
being said, if you feel something, like you said, if you feel something, you feel something. So if someone's feeling depressed, then
Mm-hmm.
that's different than if they're saying, they gave me raspberries instead of blueberries. So I'm so depressed. Like, those
Right.
are
I
two different
think
things.
no, I agree, Mike. And I think the core of what we're trying to get to here is just like, listeners and viewers. Um, I think the core of the message is kind of like just be self-aware.
Yeah,
Like just before you say something, like make sure that you're actually feeling that way and it's valid to you. And you're not just throwing out a saying because it's been said a bunch of times. Like
exactly.
just be careful of the wording. Like because
Yeah.
there are people like like myself and like Mike who deals with social anxiety and like every other guest I've had on the show that has a mental health illness that has either been diagnosed or not diagnosed. It doesn't matter, that they feel they have to deal with on a daily basis. That doesn't appreciate the fact that these people are throwing around these terminologies that aren't relative to them, right?
Exactly. Exactly. It's all about being in touch with how you're actually feeling and being careful of, just like with anything else, being careful of the wording you use when it has a real world effect on other people.
Exactly. I mean, like, I think people like take for granted their impact on people.
Yeah.
I don't think they realize the scope. I don't think any of us realize the scope, right?
Hmm.
I mean, especially for me, like when I started the podcast, I don't think I did this because I care about talking about these things, right? Like I talked to you off camera or on
Hmm.
camera, but not rolling
Yeah, not rolling.
about like the mission statement of this podcast and like how I wanted to make these conversations more accessible to people. Like that was my whole goal for the podcast, right?
Hmm.
And you know, I expected my friends to listen. Maybe a few people I've met along the way to listen. I could have never expected like 40 listeners an episode. Like that's crazy to
Mm.
me that I
That's
that it
great.
that it's reached that far now, and like I have like a general fan base. Well, I hate saying that word fan base, but like general like audience that wants to listen to what I have to say, what the guests have to say, coming on to talk about mental health and stuff. And I've gotten messages from people that I don't even know that have
Mm.
found the podcast and are like, "Yo, like I was having a shitty fucking day." And I listened to your podcast and you and your guests like helped me get through it. And I was like,
Mm.
whoa, like you kind of forget sometimes like how much you have effect on people from what you say, what
Hmm.
you do. Like I know I'm putting this out there, so like I'm inviting it, but like at the same time I can't predict the scope I'm going to give. you know
And yeah, that's just why I want to make sure that no one misunderstands what I was saying, where I'm just
no, of
like,
course, of course. i
like, I
think
don't
i
want to,
think
yeah,
they know and understand now where both you and I are standing on the subject matter.
exactly.
We covered it.
Hmm.
All right, Mike, so take a sip of water.
I
I
did.
know you just did, so you're good. Okay. This next segment is called the real reels.
Oh, realer than before.
Yes, the real reels.
Okay.
um this is kind of, and I've talked about this literally almost every podcast I have a guest on, so I'll keep it brief this time. But just so you
Okay.
understand the point of this segment of the podcast
Hmm.
is this is the part of the pod where I like to get, a bit deeper than surface level.
Hmm.
This is kind of, if you're comfortable with talking about it, obviously I'm never going to
Sure.
force the guest to talk about it if they don't want to talk about it, but if they
I'm
are comfortable with
comfy.
talking about it and like, can dig deep and, reveal some shit to the listeners and viewers that they wouldn't hear in a normal day. That's
Hmm.
kind of the whole point of this segment. It's just kind of like normalizing these kind of conversations and like breaking the stigma and the taboo bullshit that is in the world right now about talking about these certain things.
Hmm.
um yeah, this is kind of that segment of the podcast. I'm just like, you know what, like this is the raw real shit that I wish people would talk more about openly,
Okay.
because we all face these certain things, like to a certain extent, obviously. And so why can't we all just openly talk about it
Hmm.
and it be a normal thing to talk about? Like, why is it so scary or sensitive? I understand if it's sensitive to some people and it's triggering, that's fine. But like, why can't we just talk about it openly so that other people can understand better, right? so
Totally.
that we as a society can move forward with this and it not be such a weird thing, you know?
I feel that, man. I feel that.
Cool. So there really only is one question in the Real Reels, and it's, what are some of the hardest moments for you that you've had to deal with through your life, in terms of your mental health, or just in terms of like, you know, trauma or tragic moments you've had to deal with? Like, what are some of the hardest moments you've had to deal with, man?
Well, it's interesting because I may have brought this up before, but never like, not really in like a formal context necessarily, or informal even. Um, but I did discuss it on a podcast I did with my stepmom, who's a life coach, a couple years ago.
Okay.
And what's the most interesting about it is that I don't consider like my cancer treatment to be the hardest point in my life. I consider my self-esteem issues and social anxiety to be worse than the cancer treatment I went through. Um,
Wow.
which you don't hear a lot from cancer survivors, really.
That's crazy.
And why that is because
I'm not that surprised though, honestly, in your case.
really,
Yeah.
really,
Because I know like how much mental health impacts people. And
mm,
like, I'm not saying that obviously cancer is fucking awful and
not a
like
fan.
you can die from it, but I feel like mental health is one of those things where it's like we said from the top of the podcast, like it never really goes away. There's no
Mhm.
cure for it. Like you kind of just have to go through your life managing it, right?
Yeah,
Whereas you can beat cancer, and you have.
yeah, and I'd say that to preface that, like the type of cancer I had, like there was a very they knew what to do, and there was a very set regimen for it, and
Right.
and everyone tells you what to do. You get a team of doctors, a big booklet, a social worker, whatever. Everyone works on it, and they say, "Okay, you're going to be doing this for 7 months. Every second week, you're going to come in. We're going to pump you with chemo." So I had like 91 liters of chemo throughout my treatment, and
Wow.
and over the 7 months, that's the plan. So you kind of get to take a break from and I guess that's a bit of a name drop. You kind of get to take a mental break from everything that you're doing. So like when I was in grade 12, they said, sit in this bed, we're going to give you this stuff, and you're going to lose all your hair, and then you're going to come back in 2 weeks, and it's just going to keep going, and then here's the end point. Whereas with mental health and self-esteem, you don't know if it's going to be a day, a month, a year, or your whole life. You don't know if you're going to
Yeah.
be feeling like shit for 20 years, or if it's literally just
Like a
based on like
year or whatever,
a
you know,
year or
like
2 years, or like
yeah.
I didn't know in grade 7 that like why that I was feeling down or whatever, and it was just gonna be a moment in time. So I feel like
Right.
with chemo, everyone else is helping me, and I was just being sick. Whereas with self-esteem and anxiety, there's no specific route you can take, and it's a bit less clear. And just to preface that, like the cancer I did have, I was never like there was a 98% chance that I was going to survive. So I was much less worried about like a full-time real world impact. And I knew that almost from the start that I was going to be okay unless something totally random happened. And it didn't.
Sure. Well, don't
So
get me wrong. I still think, you know, you're very fortunate, and I'm very happy for you that that was the case. That
yeah,
you had I like, not that you had cancer, but like you had a cancer that was treatable and that you were going to survive from basically
exactly.
no matter what, right? Like you had a
Exactly.
98% survival rate, which is amazing. So
Hmm.
like that's super confident going into that. I mean, it's still scary nonetheless, obviously, and I'm sure it was like probably fucking hell to go through with chemo and everything like that. Like
It
I can't
wasn't
even,
fun.
I can't even begin to imagine what that's like.
Hmm.
And I don't want to imagine what that's like.
Yeah.
But there are people out there that don't get that as well. You know, like there are a lot of cancer patients that have a lot of uncertainty,
Hmm.
and like they're going to go in with like 40% survival rate, you know, like it's fucking terrifying. And
Yeah,
I'm
and
not,
I lost a friend like throughout the maybe a year after I finished treatment. I lost a friend to cancer,
see
and
like,
so
yeah,
it's totally two different stories, you know.
yeah, and like I don't want to draw a comparison to the two worlds because they're very fucking different. Like
Hmm.
mental health and cancer are like two very different fucking things. Like one's
Yeah,
physical and one's mental, right? So it's like they're two very different things, and I don't want to. I'm just covering my ass for like the listeners and the viewers to be like, look, I'm not trying to draw a comparison between the two of them. All we're saying is that like mental health can last a lot longer, and there really isn't a clear route with any of them really. Whereas some cancers, at least like yours, Mike, they have a whole regimen made. Like they have this treatment, they do this, that, and like you have a whole team around you that's going to help you get better, right?
Yeah, and that's my experience too. Like there are definitely cancer survivors out there who'll be like, no, cancer's so much worse. Like I am at stage 4, stage 3, and I'm essentially going to die. So like it really depends on the person, but I'd say, yeah, from my experience, I found my mental health struggles as a whole to be harder than my cancer treatment based on what I went through. So I feel like that's the best. That would be the best way to cover your ass.
Thank you. Yeah, that's your perspective.
My perspective, exactly.
I'm gonna take away from other people's perspectives of their own battle, right? Because I'm sure to them, their cancer was a fuck ton worse than their mental health. Like that's just like gravy, you know, in comparison.
And both
like,
suck differently, yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, anyways, just wanted to cover that just in case anyone was like, "What the fuck," you know?
Yeah, I don't want either, but like in my experience, that's what happened.
Sure, and we're talking about you. This is your episode, so that's your experience.
Exactly, and I own it.
But yeah, like talk about some of those hard moments, man, if you're up to it.
Sure. I mean, I'd say the hardest thing for me was after I got diagnosed, I was told like it was going to be a skin condition most likely, and then we went into the doctor on my second day. I missed my second day of class to go to the doctor, and they diagnosed me. And I'd say about after 10 minutes of anxiety, like my anxiety literally disappeared for like 3 months. Like I had no bad feelings. It was like almost like a dream state where it was just like, okay, this is the plan, and you're just like seeing everyone help you out. You're seeing family come together, and you're sort of like there, like, okay, I just got to get through this. And then the turning point for me was on my birthday, because I had my birthday at home.
Okay.
But it was while I was going through treatment, so I was like, you know, still sick. I have a picture of it. I can send you after if you want to edit it in, or I could even screen share and find it. But but yeah, like it was my birthday, and some of my friends just had like this huge fight over like something trivial. Like one of them stole the other one's phone or something, and they were like both mad at each other. And my dad had to come down and be like, yo, like it's Michael's birthday and he's going through chemotherapy and you're fighting over a phone. And like at that point, half of my friends had already gone upstairs and half of them downstairs. They essentially picked sides, like the fucking Community episode of Pillow Fort versus Blanket Town or whatever.
Oh my god, yeah, it's like.
And my dad's like, "What are you doing?" Like
perspective for you, you know, like.
Yeah, like pull up some birthday cake and like shut up.
Oh my god! But again, they're just kids, right? So I don't think they understand the scope of it, I guess.
I mean, on one hand, yeah. On the other hand, it's like, okay, like we're all 16, 17, like put aside drama for something bigger. And like some of my other friends were like, and this is not to make any of my friends feel guilty. Like
of course.
I've reconciled with all of them. But then my other friends were like kind of like in a bit of a lover's triangle. And like everything was just like, so they missed like most of my birthday. So like everything was all happening at once. And that's when I'm like, damn, like it's not only about like the health regimens and the doctors and stuff. Like now it sort of like took me out of that dream state and put me back into the real world. And that's when the second half of my treatment started, which was much more mental health focused, because that kind of brought me back to reality. And then I only had a few more months of treatment left. And so from like, I'd say like my birthday until August of 2013 was like the worst my mental health has ever been. Like just fucking awful.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
What was that like? Like, was there any like highlights in that time period that were like the worst?
I mean, I guess I call them lowlights.
Sorry, I shouldn't say highlights. Yes, lowlights.
You're like, what was the best part about your mental breakdown?
What was the best part of the mental break? Yeah.
Yo, you did, but did you go for food though? But, no, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I'd say some like the highlights or like the notable moments would be one of them was I think there was a period. It's a bit blurry for me, obviously, but I think there was like one moment when I like was in the car with my dad, and I'm just like I need help. Like that was like usually I was very self-sufficient and very to myself, and that was like one moment where I'm like, no, I need like therapy because not only am I going through chemo, but now I have like that mental health aspect to it,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
that really like solidified where I was at, like made it very real and not just like something I can sweep under the rug.
Right.
Um, and so yeah, that, and then I'm just going to summer camp and like all these kids are having fun and I'm just like miserable on the inside. It was
Ugh,
very juxtaposing. It was
of
very like
course.
it would be a really good movie scene actually, like where all the kids are like celebrating. You're just like in the corner, like with
Just
the
in the corner, like, meh.
Charlie Brown looking down,
I got a
walk,
rock.
walking in the rain. Yeah, um,
Yeah.
I felt like that was, for lack of a better word, like the most sobering moment. And then after that, I went to see different therapists, and that's when I got diagnosed with my social anxiety. Was actually after that whole time in my life.
I got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. So did it feel like isolation to you? Like, did it feel like you were being isolated because of what was going on in your life?
Um, I feel like it was more the lack of isolation that got to me, as in like being around teenagers who have like teenage trauma going on and like stuff like that. And to me, as someone that was going through chemotherapy, it seemed almost like from that point on I had a really different perspective on life of like, okay, like what actually matters, what are the big moments, like not just who stole whose phone or who likes who, um, which I guess could be important to a lot of teenagers because that's when you're getting to know a big part of yourself. But
Sure.
for me, I'm like, damn, like even though I had a really good prognosis, like this is much more of a life and death situation than who stole whose phone, especially on the birthday of the kid who gets to, the bald kid who gets to like chill and like watch footage of his bar mitzvah and feel a bit good at certain time.
Right.
I
Right.
felt like that was like one of the definitely like top three biggest moments of my life.
Well, yeah, because I mean, you had such a big, impactful thing happen at that age that, like I said, most people don't have to go through that age, right?
Exactly.
I
And
mean, luckily,
um,
obviously for them, but like you had to go through it, and like that's kind of life altering. Like,
yeah,
how could you not end up that way after something like that, right? And then like I think in a weird way, Mike, that might have like made you grow up faster,
much faster.
because like that happened to you, and like you're dealing with something that like most kids that age don't have to deal with, and like you said, like it changed your perspective on things right away. Like you started taking those there's like simpler things, like less, like because they don't mean that much, and you start thinking about like the bigger, like, oh fuck, like life is fleeting and I need to spend more time on things that are important, you know
Yeah.
and so I can see where that would come into play in terms of like your social anxiety, like being almost miles ahead of everyone else because of your situation.
Yeah, I mean, my Jonathan calls me like an old man at this point because like I've had like I've been through the ringer a bit. I don't really look at it like that to be honest, but like my parents got divorced and then
Yeah.
even something as small as like braces. I had braces for 8 years, like grade 9 until my fourth year of university.
8 years. Wow.
Even that was like so tiring. Like I hated my braces after like 4 years. I'm like, we done? And they're like, I only got it off for my chemotherapy because chemo makes your mouth taste metallic and any water tastes metallic. So having metal in your mouth is not a good
This
solution.
is not, yeah, not
It's
great.
not good. So I actually yeah, only got my braces taken out for my chemo and then they were put back in after.
Oh god. So yeah, you survived cancer, but here's your braces again.
I also survived braces.
Just add that to the list of things that Mike survived.
Braces, neck gear, parents divorce, cancer, and
Check,
social
check, check. And
anxiety.
social anxiety.
But I don't look at it that way. Honestly, like I look at it like I'm a very grateful person. Like there's so much that I've been able to achieve and do just because I've had so much familial support overall. Like someone like my dad who could come in and be like forget about everything for one night and just like have some birthday cake. So like I feel like
Right.
having that support in general, I did have a lot of support from those same friends and from my family that I feel like, yeah, I was never like, why me really? I was always like, okay, like now that I'm done, like I'm gonna go into social work and help others. And then now I'm gonna be in music and help others.
That's cool, man, that you can like flip the script like that, because a lot of people, and rightfully so, like it's not their fault, but like a lot of people would probably end up negative on the negative scale of things after something like that, like they're not coming out of it thinking, like, or maybe they do. Like, I don't, it's hard to say unless you're like in that situation, obviously,
Yeah.
of having, a life or death fucking illness on top
Yeah.
of having a mental health illness after that. Like, it's just like, wow, it's like a lot to deal with at such a young age. And like, where do you put all that, like it just kind of sits here on your shoulders or on your mind. And it's like, it could be all consuming. And so I'm happy
Hmm.
to hear that like you were able to take that and run with it and like not let it get you down and like flip the script and be like, you know what? No, fuck this. Like, I'm happy I'm alive and I'm gonna learn from this and use it to help other people.
Yeah. And like to me, I never like I realized like after that, I'm like, you know what, like maybe life isn't so bad. And I think from then on, I think that was a turning point that after a bit of working out some of the kinks there, like I feel like that was really the turning point where um, I wasn't stuck in my head anymore. And I was just like thinking less and doing more. I was just getting out there and doing the things I liked. And my mental health followed that.
That's great, man. I mean, that's a perfect segue into our next segment. Segue segment.
Segment.
segment. I do want to say though, man, like after talking about the real reels with you,
Hmm.
you and I have been, I don't want to say like super close because we could be closer, and I'd like to be closer.
Sure. I'm down.
Um,
Come hang out.
yeah, man, we should definitely chill. But like after hearing all of that, after hearing all of this, I feel like you and I really resonated on a lot of things that I didn't know that we did in terms of
Yeah.
like having to grow up fast
Mm.
and mature and like having to flip the script to survive, like taking all these fucking shitty things that happened to us over the years, like your parents' divorce, your cancer, your mental health, like all of these things you had to deal with. And then, with my parents passing away, my mental health, my drug addiction, my, whatever, and like
Hmm.
having to come out of all of that and still want to be a better person and like give back to others. It really resonates with me too. And it's like, oh, cool. Like Mike and I are a lot closer than I thought we were.
Yeah, and I feel like you never know who like it's amazing that we can have all this stuff in our life and then still like do simple things like play video games or make pasta together. I don't know, like just like doing like the fun small things while not always consciously thinking about, like our past. So I feel like knowing that those stories about each other, you can still get along on like simple things that like I don't know young adults do
For
without
sure.
without constantly talking about it, but still being able to bring it up.
Yeah, like being aware of it more, you know, and then having that. I think an important thing that we all kind of forget about, and I think it's going to get better hopefully in the next couple of years or so after this fucking disaster of a year and a half that we
Panasonic,
had.
yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Panorama.
panorama.
um, is connection. Like I feel like connection is so important, especially in terms of mental health too. Like with what I talk about in the podcast,
Hmm.
like connection is so 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 important, and like
Yeah.
making more connections that are like strong and positive and like will help both parties is
Hmm.
super crucial, man. And so it's been a joy like talking to people about these things as hard as it is for people and as hard as for me to speak about my stuff. Like
Hmm.
it's been an absolute joy to like get this out and like make these connections again,
Hmm.
because like the world needs more connections. We need to be
Yeah.
like connecting more than disconnecting. And anyways, that's kind of the last point I will leave on with that segment. So
Cool, man. Yeah, I feel a lot of people share that sentiment because Like I went to this thing called Reset Playground, and literally they put headphones on you, and you're like, I'm not gonna give too much away, but like you're in a park, and like it's a big guided meditation, but it's also like, okay, now you're gonna stand up and just dance in the park randomly, and so like anyone walking by would just see like 10 people with headphones just like moving randomly. So like I feel like doing simple things with strangers where you don't even talk versus something like this where we're not dancing and we're talking a lot, I feel like are both
Right.
like really interesting ways that people are coming out of the pandemic and getting to know each other, whether exchanging words, also on double vaxxed, exclaiming words or exchanging words or exchanging dance moves, I guess.
Exactly. You know what I think I'm missing in this podcast, Mike? Some dancing. I'm gonna just
Oh,
wave. All right.
Yeah. Were we missing it? I don't know if we were missing it.
I don't know. It's in now, so it's fine.
It's there now. It's forever.
I'm leaving it in.
It's forever.
All right, man. So next segment is called the rainbow segment.
Okay, I like that.
So it's
SpongeBob.
Yeah, imagination. It's kind of coming out of the real reels, and it's the progression, like if there has been progression made. Obviously not every guest has made the full step, but most of us have like kind of come out of like the darkest period, at least, and have figured out some ways to cope better or manage it better, or like you said, like grow and learn from it. And like we were talking about in the real reels, like flip the script and be like, like I'm not gonna let this control me, and like I'm gonna control it, kind of thing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, are there any positive things that you've discovered during or still finding out about living with your mental health?
Well, actually, I discovered that what comes with not being in your head and just doing more and just going out and doing things is that sometimes you forget to have those important conversations with people because you're sort of off in your own world, which, yeah, it's like having that one spacey friend who's just like not really present. I feel like I get very spacey sometimes. So I feel like living with my girlfriend Monique, who's like not the opposite, but in terms of like talking, like she loves having those deeper discussions and getting to know each other better. Whereas I'm, like you said, the seed or the seam of your pants. I don't know what the actual saying is. Seam, maybe. I think it's
seam
seam.
of the pants.
Yeah, seam, because that's what pants have. Um, but I feel like that's really pushed me to be more open and like, even if I've experienced all these things and I've talked about them, like it's okay to talk about things more than once. So I've been learning to have those important conversations. And also I learned that, I mean, it's the first time I moved out. I moved out with my girlfriend and I moved out during a global pandemic. So I feel like that in itself has been such an experience to learn how to live on your own, and then also learn to live with others, then also learn how to live with your partner, and then also learn how to keep in touch with your family who you've been living with since you were born.
It's a lot.
I feel like all that at once was like having a Band-Aid on my whole body, and it's like gets ripped off, and it feels real good right after the pain like subsides just a bit.
Yeah, and I think that really challenges your social anxiety too.
That too, and honestly, like that's like a whole different can of worms. Like I feel like my social anxiety chapter is in a lot of ways closed, and that's sort of more tied to, I guess, general anxiety, like just big life changes.
Sure.
Because I'm very comfortable with my girlfriend and with my family, so I feel like the anxiety there is more of like okay, like what's next? Now I'm paying bills, or more bills rather, and now I'm gonna like be much more self-sufficient. I'm gonna cook my own meals more. Like it's not just you show up for dinner. Like you're cooking your own meals, you're paying your own bills, you're driving to your own meetings. So that's been really interesting from a general anxiety standpoint.
For sure, man. And have you found any constructive ways or like solutions or coping mechanisms or like that to help deal with your mental health illnesses or your social anxiety?
Yeah, I'd say. I mean, it's just like climbing a mountain. Honestly, like it's so cliche, but I feel like every day or every week growing up, I would like learn new skills to cope. So it really depends on where you're at in your journey. For me, um, like what I've realized works for me, for example, is I'll get like anxious about getting things done quickly. So like I'll want, and that ties into social anxiety because I want to give people their songs back and have them be super excited about it. And
Right.
I want to like please people, right?
Of
So
course.
what I've learned from me works is because I'll be doing one thing, I'm like, wait, that other thing, and I'll go and do that, and then it's a cycle. So I actually like kind of set up in my house. Like I'll go and do 5 minutes of physio, and then I'll like shoot over and like mix a song for a bit, and then I'll shoot over and play some video games while I eat. And I'll sort of like do like laps in my apartment. And my girlfriend's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "It's just
I'm doing
so
laps.
doing laps exactly." So I found for me it's helpful to do. I mean, if you've seen the Bo Burnham special, a little bit of everything all the time. I found that that works really well for me. Um, I don't know. Maybe I should look into if I maybe I need to look into an ADHD type thing. But I feel like that's really helped for me is having a circuit of ongoing things so I don't get bored and so that I can uh, keep myself happy with my physio and my video games and my work. I love my work, but
For sure.
also keep others happy by getting them things on time without putting it off and seeing it as this big task, biting it off into smaller chunks.
Right. And so you said that you kind of closed the chapter on your social anxiety. So does that mean like you're not finding yourself feeling anxious in like social environments anymore?
Only in like the ways that I've seen as like socially common. So like if I'm in like a super crowded place or like maybe for like a brief second if I have to like stand up and speak for people. But
Right.
or maybe sometimes my social anxiety does prevent me from having those deep conversations right away because I'm just like in go mode. I'm just like thinking less and doing more.
Right.
So that could just also be a form of escapism as a different iteration of what social anxiety looks like to me.
Okay. And has there been any like ways or anything that you try to like manage it better in those situations?
I think, I mean, it sounds so basic and reductive, but I think eating properly, sleeping properly have helped a lot.
Okay.
Um, not forcing myself to wake up at 6:30 a.m. every morning if I need a day or two to sleep in has been really helpful. I've been sleeping in a lot, which is nice,
That's great, man.
which comes from Monique too, honestly. I got to give her credit because she's such a night owl and I'm such a morning person. And so we balance each other out when we need to, when the other person's looking like they shouldn't be going to bed at 5 a.m. or waking up at 6 a.m.
Right, right, exactly. I take it she's a server, right?
She's actually a hostess, and then also she just started working for like a Jewish bar mitzvah company as well as an event planner, which is what she wants to be doing. Is doing event planning.
Oh, that's cool. Nice.
Yeah, so she's getting started in the whole event assistant event planning industry.
Cool. Good for her. So I guess
Yeah,
she's up into the wee hours of the night with
she
the night
likes it.
jobs and stuff, right? So yeah.
Yeah, she likes that. I mean, these jobs, like the keg closes, like she can be home by 1 a.m., which
I
she
was just
doesn't
saying,
mind
'cause
at
the kid
all.
closes at like what, 12 most days or something like that, right?
Yeah, 12 or 1. So
Yeah, yeah.
she's actually been starting to wake up early now, and she can, at the drop of a pin, if she has something to do, she'll be up 7 a.m. till 12 p.m. till 12 a.m. no problem.
Right. Cause then she, has to go to work at like 4 o'clock or whatever.
Yeah, so she's totally cool with waking up early, but when she has nothing going on, she's like total night owl.
Yeah, I'm the same way, man. I'm such a night owl, dude.
I
I'm a
can't, man.
I'm a server, so I'm like I'm out till like fucking 2:30 in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning,
Where are you
most
serving now?
nights. I'm serving at Buffalo Wild Wings.
Wow, I love Wild Wing, man.
Yeah, Buffalo Wild Wings, good old American brand, but
Which one? Which one?
the one in Mississauga.
Is it weird if I come by? Like, is that weird?
No,
Because
no, absolutely. Come on by, man.
okay, maybe I'll come on by, and you should come here too. Because like, yeah, now that I moved out and we got like a hunt, like a really big balcony actually, we can shoot the shit and hang out and play some video games and
Dude, I would love that. Let's make that happen.
yeah. How's next Tuesday?
Sounds good to me, man.
Sick, man. I'll see you then because
All right.
I'm definitely down for that.
Yeah, me too, man. That'd be sick. All right, man. So that's all I got for you today, man.
That's a
So
great ending.
yeah, that's a great ending. We ended off on making plans again. That's beautiful.
Yeah, dude. Next Tuesday is gonna be litty,
It's gonna be, as the kids say, lit.
as the kids say, fun.
Okay, man. Are there any final thoughts or feelings or any sort of message of hope or advice or anything like that you want to give to the listeners, the viewers about everything we talked about today? If
Yeah, I
they're,
feel like. Hmm?
I was just say if they're experiencing anything similar to how you experienced it, is there any like final thoughts you want to shout out to the listeners and the viewers?
Yeah, I do have final thoughts. So my final thought would be, um, anything. There's nothing too big or too small um, to discuss with the right people. So I feel like if you're experiencing something, like I know I was talking before about like, people saying that they're depressed about blueberries and stuff, but on the real, like, if something's like actually like getting you, like whether it seems trivial or not, like talk to someone you trust about it, and like as much as there's a lot of um, crisis measures for mental health, like there are also a lot of preventative ones. So doing things day in and day out that make you feel happy and better, and things that um, even if you're not experiencing a crisis, you can still see a therapist. Things like that that just keep you in check and keep you feeling good. I'd say are really important. And if you can, think a bit less and do a bit more. If that helps you. And doing can be self care. It doesn't only have to be working more or burning yourself out. It's also doing more things for yourself.
Wow, I mean that was beautiful, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's definitely a good final thought to end on. And I would just add to that, um, if the idea is daunting to you of seeing a therapist or like a psychiatrist or whatever, you can always just reach out to a friend. Like if you have a good friend that you trust that's willing to listen to you about these things, like reach out to them first and just
I like
express how
that.
you're feeling, like that. It could be as simple as that. And then maybe they can direct you in the right direction. Like maybe they've talked to somebody that's good at what they do, or whatever like that. So it just starts like if you're struggling with something, no matter what you feel is valid to you, like we said in the pod. And if you feel like it's challenging you or it's inhibiting you to live your life the way you want to, just reach out
Hmm.
to anybody. Like it could be a friend or even a family member or anybody that you think will understand, or maybe not even understand, but just will listen to you.
Hmm.
If the idea is too daunting to go see a therapist or a psychiatrist. But I would say if it is at the point where it's like scary, please go see somebody that's professional that does this for a living, because they're going to be able to assess you better, right?
Hmm.
But yeah, no, that's a great final thought, Mike. I really appreciate it. um I hope the listeners enjoyed this episode and got a lot from you. I know I did.
Thank you.
So if at the end of the day nothing, then at least I got a lot of it.
That was great
um
fun, and yeah, thanks for having me on here. It was truly a pleasure. I really enjoyed it.
Hey man, no worries at all. Big thanks to you, Mike, for coming on and sharing your story with everybody today and digging deep with us and just pulling back that curtain of mental health, which we all need to start doing more of, I think. So kudos to you, man, for wanting to come on here and share your story. I really appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, great to be here.
And just before we pop off, is there anything that you want to shout out, man? Anything going on in your life that people should know about?
Oh well,
Any
my in
plugs?
yeah, my Instagram is friedmix or friedmix, so it's fried.mix, and I post right now. I have like a virtual art/music gallery going on, so I'm doing different art installations from local Toronto artists mixed with some songs I produced years ago, and yeah, if you ever need mixing or mastering, hit me up. Like any audio work. Um, it's what I do for a living, and I get to keep doing it for a living because I work with others. So, um, yeah, if you want to keep me in music, hit me up.
I will vouch for Mike. He's such a great artist and a great music producer. Like he's really good at what he does.
Thank you.
So if you're looking to get some shit done, please reach out to Mike. He's awesome.
Thank you. I
And
appreciate that.
yeah, no worries, man. Of course. And obviously, you know where to find you, but you already said Fried Mix on
Fried
Instagram.
mix. Yeah, Insta's best.
Insta's best. Okay, cool. So yeah, everybody go give him a DM or go follow him on Instagram. Show him some love. The man, the myth, the legend, Michael Friedman.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hey man, once again, thanks so much for being on, man. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for listening and watching. I really appreciate it. We really appreciate it. Stay tuned for more episodes of Mental Break. Make sure to keep drinking water. Go get vaxxed if you can or want to. Hug somebody that you love. Tell somebody that you love them. And yeah, peace and love, everybody. Thank you guys so much for watching. Oh, make sure to go give a Mental Break a follow on Instagram at a Mental Break Podcast. Make sure to follow on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, or if you're listening to your podcast. It really helps out the show. Leave it a review if you really like it, because that helps out with the algorithm and all that kind of stuff. Share with your friends. Share with your loved ones if they like podcasts and they like, you know, being an advocate for mental health. It really helps me out in this journey that I'm on with the podcast, and it really helps Mike getting his story out into the world and everyone's mental health story out in the world, and making it more accessible for people that need it. So yeah, I'll leave you on that note. Everybody, thank you so much for watching and listening. And Mike, thanks so much, buddy.
No problem. Peace out.
I'll see you next week.
See ya. Yeah.